Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Muffin. As always, of course, why would I be anyone else? And today's video is about comparators, which nobody seems to understand, and I'm excited to finally do, because you need these for so many bigger circuits that I want to show you guys. Anyways, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. The first function of comparators, and probably the main one Mojang intended when they added these into the game, is reading what percentage of a container is taken up. This can be any container. I've used hoppers because these are the most common, and it'll read the percentage of how full something is. This one has 64 items in it, and because of that, it outputs a signal strength of 3. So if you check right here, 3. It can go up to 15, and will output a signal based on how full it is. This chart on screen is a list of how many items you need per container to output which signal strengths. The S that are behind 1, 2, etc. stand for stack, which is equal to 64. A regular item that can stack in stacks of 64 is equal to 1 on this chart. An item that can only stack to 16, like ender pearls and snowballs, are equal to 4. And non-stackable items like tools, armor, beds, and water buckets are equal to 64 items. This right here is a list of all of the other non-container things that can be sensed with comparators. Beehives, bee nests, cakes, cauldrons, composters, command blocks, end portal frames, item frames, jukeboxes, lecterns, respawn anchors, and skulk sensors. For more information, check out this link up here. I'll post it in the description. Comparators can also read minecart hoppers and minecart chests, but only if they're on a detector rail. When they're on detector rails, it'll be read in the same way as anything else. Notably, this does not work with mobs. As you see here, I've got a baby zombie in, and it's on a detector rail, but no output. Just important to note in case you thought maybe that was a possibility. It's not. The most simple use of the comparator is just as a small delay. It'll take whatever signal is on the block behind it, in this case 15, and output it in front of it. You can check the power, as always, in the F3 menu. Here, I've put it quite far away, and there's a power of 5 here. So, it outputs a power of 5. This is just how this works. Very useful to know. Also, signals cannot travel backwards through the comparator, as you see here. It's powered, no power there. So you could use it as just a backwash stopper. As I mentioned in my repeater video, comparators can lock repeaters. Not really much else to say about this, but they can. Comparators have two modes. This mode, which is compare, and this mode, which is subtract. The compare mode takes the signal behind it, compares it to the signal going in the side, which can be redstone dust, comparators, repeaters. I don't think it can be any like redstone block or redstone torches or anything, but just like this, it's 14 here, and because there's a redstone torch, it's 15 here. And if the signal from the back is greater than the signal from the side, it'll go through at full power. As you see, it's 15 here. If they are equal, as is shown here, it still outputs a 15. I just did this because, I don't know, it looks more symmetrical. On the other hand, subtract does exactly what it says. Takes from the back and subtracts from the side. An important thing to note for both of these is that if you have a signal going in both sides, like this, it only takes the greatest one. It doesn't combine the two signals, and it doesn't do anything weird like that. It'll just take the greatest signal. So this is basically obsolete in this equation, and this one is obsolete in this equation. Comparators can read through blocks, one block through a container. I think this block has to be a full block. Maybe slabs also work. Let me just check quickly. Okay, slabs do not work unless you place 2, then they do work. As far as I know, there are no non-whole blocks that work. There are probably a few that count as whole blocks, but don't look like whole blocks. But for all intents and purposes, whole blocks. Now, this is a pulse extender, which extends the duration of a pulse. how it works is when you press this button and it goes off, because of the 1 tick delay from the comparators, it will read this, which is a 15, output a 15 here, and a 14 here. This will read this, and it'll be a 14 here and a 13 here. And this goes around and around until it hits 0, and then the light turns off. Because I don't have a repeater here, it actually goes off when it hits 1, but that really doesn't matter. If you care, just stick a repeater here. Honestly, it just works well like that. One signal using a pulse extender like this is a pulse extender like this extends the pulse for 1.5 seconds, I believe, if you put it right next to the power source. For every block you put it farther away from the power source or with lower signal strength, it will have 1/10 of a second or 1 tick less of an effect. Doesn't matter which mode these are on, so just leave them on compare, because that's like what it's set to initially. So yeah, that's great. That was a terrible thing. I have to redo that. This style of pulse extender will last for 1 tick per power that the redstone dust in front of this one initially has. Since when I press this button, this has a power of 15, this will last for 1.5 seconds. If you push this farther away, or use a comparator on subtract to reduce the strength of the signal, it will shorten the pulse extender for 1/10 of a second. It'll shorten the pulse extender for 1/10 of a second per. This style of pulse extender, placed right up against the power source, lasts for 1.5 seconds, or 15 ticks. This style of pulse extender lasts for 15 ticks, which is 1.5 seconds. For every power that this sort of pulse extender lasts for 1.5 seconds, or 15 ticks. When you have the power source right next to the button, it powers this to 15 initially, which is 1/10 of a second, because this pulse extender has 1/10 of a second of extending per power initially. So, since this button lasts for 10 ticks and this lasts for 1.5 seconds, it's a 2.5 second extender. You can lower this by pushing this farther away from the button, or by using a comparator on subtract mode to reduce the power that goes into this redstone dust here. The crafting recipe for a comparator is 3 stone on the bottom, the regular kind, get this by silk touching, or smelting cobblestone in a furnace, 3 redstone torches, which is just a stick in redstone dust, and 1 piece of nether quartz, which you can find and mine in the nether. Well guys, that's going to be it for this episode of Muffin's Redstone Guide. Please consider checking out the rest of my videos and the ones I make in the future, because now that I've done comparators, I can actually start showing you proper redstone machines. Anyways, bye bye!